So this is the web accessibility made easy for WordPress. One of the big stigmas that we found talking to people was they're scared of it. It's just like anything else, the unknown. You're scared of it. You think it's going to be a ton of work, but it's really not. Especially if you incorporate it into your process of building your software site. That's what we try to just trying to lift that veil. So this talk, we're going to talk about some facts and an explanation of why it's so important. We offer our 11 easy steps, and at the very end, we're going to give you some free developer tools to help you become compliant. Again, we use all free developer tools, all free tools for testing. Okay, a few facts. Over 1 billion people have some sort of disability. That's a lot of people. Of that, 253 million people have some sort of vision impairment. And then you take that subsect down even more, you're dealing with 19 million children that have a visual impairment, that aren't able to get on the internet and access any of that content. Okay, a few more facts. There are 814 Section 508 lawsuits in 2017. And last year there was over 2,200 lawsuits. All those lawsuits filed in 2018 were filed by less than 50 plaintiffs. And to answer your question, touch on your question, they were filed under Title III of the ADA. So they weren't filed under Section 508 non-compliance, they were filed under Title III. So, and there's no real clear specific laws yet for that. That's the scary part.
What is Title III?
I'm sorry?
What is Title III?
That Title III says it's the ADA, Americans Disability Act. Title III of that says that every individual with a disability has to have full access. It was made for buildings. Have to have full access. That's why you have ramps. That's why you have blue parking spaces, bathrooms. Yeah, they have to have full access that everybody else, that the average person would have access to. And now that's transferring to websites. Now all the lawsuits are saying, I don't have full access to this website like if I was a visually impaired individual. So that doesn't fall under the Section 508 because it's not law yet for people, but it's the Title III that the lawsuits are happening.
Yeah, so what about this, you said there's like 50 plaintiffs?
Less than 50 plaintiffs.
Less than 50 plaintiffs.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's 22 so far.
Yes. Just like around here too. I mean, there was years back that there was a lawyer group that had a lady in a wheelchair, and they went around to every spot, and if there was a spot where she couldn't get in, they got served. And they just went on the map and went boop, down the street and up the street.
Trolling.
Yes, that's what they do. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what it takes to break the lock. But I believe that's where we're at this point. Here's a graph that shows you 2015 there was 57 lawsuits, 2016 262, 2017 814, 2018 2,200. You can see the exponential growth. I mean, those are Title III lawsuits for websites.
And there's a group of senators, sorry to cut you off, Joe, that actually wrote a letter about a year ago to the Department of Justice for guidance on how they can stem these lawsuits. The Department of Justice hasn't written back yet. So it's literally stuck in limbo right now. So these lawsuits are going to continue. They're going to keep getting, there's going to be more of them this year, there's going to be more of them next year, there's going to be more of them until the Department of Justice says, hey, these are the rules, this is what we're going to do, until they give the Senate some guidance. And then unless Congress decides to come through and change the law, which
They actually have put out a law, and I gave you that resource at the end. They have put out a law for all government agencies, and that's what the DOJ did put out. So there's a law for government agencies, but that has not been translated to the average business yet. So there is a very specific law, and I gave you the resource so you'll be able to check it out, but it's for government agencies. All right, what is Section 508? WCAG. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. This is worldwide guidelines that they've put together to say that if your site follows these guidelines, then you're in compliance for individuals with disabilities. Now, the Section 508 is a dumbed down version because there's 3 levels to WCAG: A, AA, AAA. Section 508 is the American version, is the law for government agency. They say you have to be A and AA compliant of the WCAG. So you don't have to be fully WCAG compliant. You just have to be the first and second level. Because again, it's A, AA, AAA. So that's what the Section 508 is of the Rehabilitation Act. Okay, the WCAG takes breaks down into 4 main categories. You got perceivable. Obviously the things you can see, you're perceiving, your media, all kinds of things like that. You got operable. This deals with keyboard. This deals with people who have a motor function disability type of issue as opposed to a visual. Understandable. You want to make sure everything's in order, everything makes sense. Predictable and robust. You want to make sure it works with a ton of assistive technologies. There's a lot out there. Make sure it works with them, and make sure it works with them years down the road. So make sure your site or your software is robust.
All right, so now we get to the why does Section 508 exist? And this is why. Because this is what a blind user sees when they go to your website. Nothing, obviously. They have to use screen readers, okay? So all of those things that you visually, that you put all of this time into your website, all of the big hero graphics or big hero pictures, if you work for clients, getting just the right font that they love, okay, because there's a gazillion fonts, none of it matters to them. It doesn't matter, they can't see it. So if we're gonna help low vision and blind users to access your websites, we need to be compliant. And that's why we've come up with our 11 easy steps to help with compliance. Like Joe said, we're going to have this up on YouTube, and we already have a version up, but this is our latest version of this fall. Okay. Yeah, take a picture if anybody wants to. I'll leave it up for a second.
Story of my life.
Out of the shot, Joe.
It's important to mention too, you can follow every one of these steps to the T and you're still not going to be in compliance. Compliance is a very, very deep rabbit hole, and we just take what we think are the most important and the easiest as WordPress developers to add into their process. So.
And next month, which I did not mention earlier, we will be going into how to actually audit your existing site, and we'll go over the tools we use and show exactly how to go over your site and make it fully compliant, okay? We're gonna go into a lot more detail too. But this stuff will get you definitely headed in the right direction, okay? So we're gonna jump into step 1. You need to provide alternative text for non-text content. All right, so what does that mean? If you click on, in your media library, on your WordPress website, click on any picture, this is what pops up, right? So your alt text, right here, I don't know if my laser's working that good, but you need to provide good alt text that gives a good description of the picture that you have, okay? The reason is because screen readers pick up the alt text. I like to say, try to paint a picture for the user, the low vision or blind user. Try to actually use a sentence, usually a good sentence that is descriptive of the photo. Okay?
They suggest less than 200 characters though.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, I thought there was like it was normal to make just a little bit of words inside.
Well, it's just like reading a book. You know, you want to read a good descriptive. You want to describe to that individual what that picture is. So a good sentence or two is really what you need. A few words isn't really going to get that, unless it's a simple picture. You know, a few words will make you compliant, so you can't get sued for not having an alt tag. But it's just, you know, it just could be better for the end user.
What about the dashes in between, like each word? Should you include those or no?
No, I wouldn't worry about anything like that. Just make a couple of sentences, but like I said, they say under 200 characters, because you don't want every picture, you don't want the screen reader to, you don't have to go through this big giant paragraph for every picture, so.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, because I'm not familiar with the screen reader, does that talk to you, to them? Or
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's an audio.
Yes, yeah, a lot of stuff comes with them free now standard, but you can get them, you can download them.
Might try turning on your phone, you have user accessibility features on that, and it'll read.
Be prepared to turn it off fast though, because it gets annoying real fast.
Yeah, I just didn't know what.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
What about the title? Do you stress over that?
No, alt tag,
That was a
the screen
terrible
readers
title.
are meant, yeah, alt tags, screen readers are meant to use the alt tag. And then, yeah, that's in Gutenberg.
Yeah, this Gutenberg, they added, Joe.
I mean, Gutenberg added this because a big thing is that was one of the gray areas. Everybody was so worried about adding alt tags as just pictures and logos and icons and just everything. So what Gutenberg did was that all images must either have an alt attribute, which is the alt text, or be declared decorative. So if you have a picture on there that's just decorative, doesn't convey any information, it's just there to catch a corner or as a background, you can, in Gutenberg, you can click that and that tells the screen reader to skip right over it. So it won't say picture null or something, whatever it says when there's nothing there. That tells the screen reader to skip over it. So if you're using Gutenberg, either have the alt tag or have it labeled as decorative.
All right, moving on to step number 2, label your form elements, okay? All right, so that simply means label the elements whenever you have a form. Contact form, almost every website has a contact form now. Make sure those labels are, or make sure that they're labeled. Contact form 7, you can see it just adds the labels for you, HTML labels in the contact form itself. A lot of people are familiar with that one, so that's why I mentioned it. Okay, so just make sure that all of your form elements are labeled. Going on to number 3, add manuscript or closed captions for videos. Add audio description for animations. Okay. So what's an example of closed captions? This is my favorite slide because it shows my good friend Joe. So this is your closed caption on YouTube. I know Joe is kind of our YouTube expert, so he has something to say here. But
yeah, we suggest if anybody here, has anybody put up a video on their website or anything using YouTube before? Yeah. Okay, so you know how easy it is. You put it in there and it gives you a little URL and you put it on your site and bang, it's posted. Well, on the back end, when you're in your video manager, you can go to your little edit, and I think the new one does it as well. You can scroll all the way down, but you go to your subtitles and CC, and then you activate that. YouTube will automatically add a manuscript to your video. Now, if your video is more than 5 or 10 minutes, it takes a couple of hours to a day, but they will. And they add a couple of different options as well. You can manually go in and add the manuscript to yourself, really easy. Well, you got YouTube playing, they give you a little box, you can type it in, or you can open it up to the front end and allow users watching your video to chime in and do it for you. And then you okay it on the back end on whether you want to put it out there. But use the automated feature, that's the best, and it makes it so easy. And low vision individuals, we've been told a couple of times that they just love YouTube. That's their main website when they surf the net, because it makes it so easy. So low vision and with audio, and blind people or deaf people with the closed captions.
all right. Okay. So number 4. Ensure that your color contrast meets minimum thresholds. What are the thresholds? Your color contrast should be a minimum of 4.5 to 1, with the exception of links and text. They can be 3 to 1. Okay. Here's an example of some bad contrast. We've all seen websites like this with funny colors that are hard to read. Okay. I even have a little trouble reading this. Not as bad on this screen, but when we play it on some of the other screens, I can hardly see it. So make sure your contrast is good, like this. This is an example of good contrast. It makes all the difference in the world, especially for someone who's colorblind. Okay, this really helps them out on your website. Number 5, make all link text descriptive. And what does that mean? So here's a bad example of a link description. Click here. I've been guilty of using that one in the past more times than I can count. Read more, that's not very descriptive either for well, I guess read more could be. It's more so than click here for sure. So those are examples of what not to do with your link descriptions. Here's a good example of one. For an example of a good link description, follow this link to Wikipedia. So this tells the user when they've got a screen reader, because remember, they're just hearing this, this tells them where this link goes. It says it goes to Wikipedia, there's no question. When it just tells them click here, they're not sure where that goes necessarily, depending on the context of your sentence or your text. Okay? And we're gonna go ahead and take a few questions if anybody has one at this point. We're not done yet, we're about halfway through. Any questions on anything so far?
How does someone turn on the closed caption on YouTube if they're going to?
You can,
I see the button there, but.
yeah, the little CC button down there, that's how.
but
With
do they know-
they'll with the tab, they'll like tab navigate, that's how blind
they know how to
individuals,
navigate on the
and
keyboard.
that's clickable, so that'll have your focus state on it, and they'll be able to hit that.
Is there a tool you use to measure the color contrast?
There is.
Yeah.
And we will mention that later in this talk, as a matter of fact.
Plenty of free ones, plenty of free
Yeah,
ones.
yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Perfect.
What did you say about turning something on YouTube and it will automatically generate the
The manuscript, the closed
Yeah.
caption and stuff. If
the
you go,
manuscript? Yeah.
if you go in your video manager, and usually it's like in your edit video, you go to, it'll be subtitles /CC, and then you click on that, and then that'll take you to a new little screen, and it'll allow you, it'll give you a couple of options, either do the auto manuscript, well, they'll do it themselves, or you manually do it yourself, or you can put it on the front end and let other people open it up to individuals to do it. So I just do the auto through YouTube, and your video will have that CC, little CC icon will pop up on your video, and they'll do it. They make it real easy. That's why not only they make it super easy to just put it on your site, but they also make it real easy to be in compliance. So, you know,
Yeah,
so
I
why we
want
recommend.
easy routes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
For an audio description, are there tools for that, or?
For an audio description?
Yeah.
I've not had to use one of those yet, but I have seen, I know Amazon offers one. Actually, it's one of the cheaper ones out there. I think it's like a couple of dollars for like a 5-10 minute video or something. It's pretty inexpensive. But that's the only one that I've seen. But again, I've not looked into too many of them.
You could use like a podcast, put it with the website, with a description of each section or something.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself very easily, yeah.
Maybe Fiverr or something like that.
Oh, definitely Fiverr. Yeah, you can find anything you want on Fiverr. That's actually a good suggestion. Yeah, Fiverr. If you got something, I guarantee you can find somebody on Fiverr to do it.
To be compliant, do you have to have a description, an audio description of the video?
To be Section 508 compliant, yes, it says you have to have, it's in there, you have to have an audio and the text description, absolutely. But again, there's really no lawsuits for Section 508 non-compliance. The lawsuits are for Title III. So yes, it's in the Section 508, but unless you have a government site or anything like that, it's not law for you yet.
So it's people that are deaf as well, right? That have the eyesight, but they can't hear.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely,
if
yeah.
they look at the YouTube video, they.
Correct. WCAG covers all disabilities, cognitive, all of them. You have a question, Wayne?
So if we follow what you've gone over so far, the first four, however many you've done, we're compliant?
No, that's all I'm saying. I mean, you could follow every one of these and you still, it depends on your site. I mean,
We won't get sued.
if you have a nice, easy
We
site,
won't get sued?
I don't think you're gonna get sued because you're gonna look way better compared to anybody else out there. You are gonna be so far ahead of the game, and if you put an accessibility statement in your footer saying that you have accomplished all of these things, in my opinion, you're looking fantastic. It's just like, it's like a burglar on a house. They're just gonna go to the next one. It's just easier.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
What I'm hearing you say is there have been 50 plaintiffs that have made 2,200 lawsuits, and they're setting precedent for what's coming down the road, and really it's more of an opportunity to see that there are people who really need something. So if your goal is to serve whatever your content is, this is a good way to be compliant. You're not really getting sued right now, but it's also just a good step to take these 11 steps. It's probably not going to cover everything, but
Right.
it's going to, probably the 50 they're going after, I'm just guessing, but seem to probably have money.
Yeah, big companies,
Bigger
Nike,
businesses.
Amazon, Rolex,
Right.
Beyonce, I mean, a whole bunch of big companies.
But it sets precedent
And
for.
it does, and that's what they're doing. They're just kind of letting the judges kind of make the laws at this point. They're letting stuff weed out.
Yeah.
So that's just where it's at.
Well, when you do the setup like this one for the alt page or whatever,
Alt text?
alt text. When you do that, does it appear, it only appears if you have a screen reader?
Yes. Yes.
So a person who doesn't have disability would not see this?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It wouldn't have any effect on your website?
Correct. None whatsoever. None. Yes.
However, for SEO purposes, Google doesn't understand images. The alt text is a way of describing what you're doing. So alt text,
And the description.
yeah, is very important for ranking.
And we think that Google will start favoring accessible sites. Just like they have secure sites, just like they have every other step of the way. It's just a matter of time that they're gonna start favoring accessible sites with things like that. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. All right, we got the next set. Number 6, the color of any given content cannot be the only indication of meaning. This is mostly for colorblind individuals. I think it's like 9% of men are colorblind at some point in their life, 1% of women. So what you want here, using color, you cannot use color to convey menu input fields. So we got a incorrect example here. Required fields are in red, name and email. That's how the screen reader is going to read it. So blind, if you imagine closing your eyes and the screen reader reading you, required fields are in red, name and email. That don't do nothing for you. So what you got to do is say required fields are in red and marked with an asterisk. That's simple. Name and email asterisk, and that's how the screen reader is going to read it to you. So if you imagine an individual who can't see, that will tell them where to go, what's important and what's not. Okay, we got another one here. Which is the right angle triangle? Now, a person who's colorblind isn't going to know what colors these are, so they won't be able to correlate that color with over here. So what you want to do is a very simple method. Just put a number in there. So now they can correlate whichever one they think it is. Very simple process. Very easy. All right. Make sure your font size is at least 18 pixels.
Wow.
That's just the way it is. And you got to make sure it's spaced when individual increases it by 200%. So, you know, font size is, that fluctuates a little bit with the font size, but that's pretty much your base level. And again, don't forget about your spacing, because assistive technology allows individuals to space it by 200%. And your spacing still got to be correct, and your font still got to be legible.
What about the zoom on the browser? You could zoom.
You can go to 200%. Yep.
Yeah, why can't they do that? Why do they have to? Why do you have to make it 18? You really want to read it, zoom it.
I mean, yeah, that's just what it is. All right, your error handling. If there's an input error by the user, it must be identified and described in the text, explaining the error. Basically, if you go to a site and you're filling out a form, and you add something wrong, the screen reader has to have something to explain to you what went wrong. Because again, you're a blind individual is doing this. So, you know, you got the asterisk right here, so you know what's supposed to be in. Well, I just went in, didn't fill it out. I said, whoops, I forgot this one, and went down to the bottom, hit enter. This is how it's supposed to pop up to you. Please review the errors below. Title is required. Right there. So you know that that's the one you missed. Come down here. Last name is required. So as you're tabbing, you fill it out, you hit tab, it'll come back down to this one. And that's how you communicate with the screen reader. All right, tab navigation. Your entire site needs to be navigated, needs to be able to be navigated by only your keyboard. And basically they call this tab navigation. So you can imagine somebody with a motor skill, function, disability is not able to access your site. A good test of this is just throw your mouse to the side. Don't use it. Use only your keyboard. Use your tab button, arrow keys, and your enter. And you need to be able to access every single piece of content on that page with your tab button. You have to be able to navigate everything. And it's also real important is not to ignore the focus state. That gets ignored a lot. So not only as you're hitting tab, if you go to a site, you just go to a site, open up any site, and then you hit tab. The first thing that should light up is on the top left-hand corner of your screen, telling you whatever it is. And then as you tab, you'll notice not only is it in logical reading order, but every time you tab to something, it should have a tab focus on it. It should have an outline, it should be bigger, should have something to let that individual know that if they hit enter, that's the button that's going to be used. You know, if you don't have a tab focus, you could be hitting tab and your tab could be way down here and you don't know it, or it's just a hot mess. So make sure you can navigate with the tab and make sure you got a focus state. All right, you must offer flexible time limits, if any. Some sites have to have a time limit. You're talking anything that takes a payment. When we give our WordPress security talk, we tell people to log out idle users for security reasons. So there are scenarios that you need to log out idle users, stuff like that. But if you have to do that, give them a big, easy option to gain more time. Big button pops up that says your session is about to expire. Click this for another minute, for another 5 minutes, for however long you need it to be. But make it very easy for them to get more time. We suggest don't have a time limit, but if you have to, make it easy. All right, we got provide skip navigation links so your users can skip repetitive content. The majority of it is nav menus and widgets. As WordPress developers, it's all about posts and all that. So you have this big, beautiful drop-down menu at the very top of every page. A lot of times down the sides, you got all your other stuff that you're dealing with, all your other posts and all that stuff. Well, what you have to do for an individual using a screen reader, every time they go to a page, they got to navigate through that hot mess of your beautiful nav menu that you made and all this other stuff. And that gets very daunting. It's very troublesome. So what you want to do is provide skip nav links. So when they hit the tab button, at the very top, a little button will also pop up, say skip to main body or skip to content. And you can click that button and it will skip over everything, all your nav menu, all that stuff, and go straight to the content. So if they go to another page, they hit that skip link and it goes to the content. So they're not having to go through your entire nav menu on every page. You can imagine how frustrating that is, having to hit tab every single time. So that's, okay, here we go. Most themes come with them nowadays. If you're installing new themes, it'll pretty much already come with skip links. But if you got an older theme, if you got a client that just refuses to upgrade, you can simply download a plugin, WordPress Accessibility, and this is the very first thing you see, enable skip links. You click that, and your site will have skip links. So again, most themes have it nowadays. And that's our 11 easy steps. So again, remember, if you follow, to Elaine, if you follow every step, you're still not in full compliance, but you are well on your way. And it's about giving the end user a much better experience anyway, is what we're trying to do. And you have by far and away accomplished that if you can do these, and I guarantee you're better than 80% of the sites out there, 90% of the sites out there. Remember, 253 million people are blind. That's a potential clientele base for your site if you open it up to these people. All right, you got any questions?
Yeah, why do you say you would not be in complete compliance? Like that's a lot of stuff you've covered.
Oh man, yeah, there's so many things. There's so many more things.
All right.
Yeah.
You could have plugins on your site that aren't compliant. We've dealt with a plugin once. It's a map plugin that when you try to tab navigate, it would just jump to the plugin and then back to the page, then to the plugin. So little things like that aren't necessarily covered here. Well, we did talk about it, but you would have to get rid of that plugin. You can't use that plugin, or recode the plugin if you want to go that route.
I mean, we don't talk about H1 headers, H headers. You got to have them in order. You can't have H1, H3, H2. It's got to be H1, H2, H3, H4, all the way down. Things like that. You got to make sure your tab focus is in logical order. It can't skip stuff, come down here and come back up here. And that has to do with your coding too. If you're coding buttons, you can with your CSS, you can slide a button over to this way on the front end, but if in the DOM, if your screen reader's reading it, it's going to read it backwards because that button's first in your HTML, So, I mean, it's just good. We give a link in here that you can go to the W3C and see the guidelines yourself. You can see there's so many. We got 11. Yes.
I did read a little bit about 508 and saying don't use Capture or try not to.
Yes.
Caption.
That's
So
tough.
what does that mean? I mean, like, what do you use instead of Caption?
That's a great question.
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the double authentication thing is pretty difficult when you're dealing with accessibility. So, and that's one of the gray areas that they don't really talk about too much. But yeah, I mean, you can imagine how difficult that would be.
Yeah.
Pick
It's all
the one
about-
with street signs. You know, that's just not going to happen. So,
But yet Google is using that example, you know, they're not even following it.
yeah, right. No, you're right. Google's doing amazing stuff, but yeah, I mean, that just shows the level of difficulty it is to be compliant. It's hard. Yes.
What about WordPress itself? What's the statement of direction for accessibility? A lot of this could be inside of WordPress.
Well, there is. You know, I know they've been catching a lot of flack about Gutenberg. How Gutenberg is much less accessible than the previous versions of WordPress were, and they are actively working on that. They have like an open ticket system on the back end that you can actually jump in and help out. They have a whole list of issues you can try to help out with, but that's pretty much about it. And they're catching flack about it. I mean, there's, you know, Kat Holmes was their main accessibility person, and she split ways shortly after getting with the company because they had just a difference of opinion. And now she's at Google and they're killing it. So
I'm looking at, I've got a Genesis site, and I'm looking at the menu, and I'm using the tab, and it does when I use a tab, I can see it go across the little icons for the social stuff.
Right.
And then when it
disappears.
Yeah,
That's your tab focus.
It does a line on the navigation, and then that's it. And
Right.
then it goes
But that's a
something
very easy fix, though. It's a very easy fix. It's a little piece of code. So let's see here. Okay, we got free tools here for you guys. UserWay is it's a plugin that we use on our site. It puts a little icon on the front of your site. What that does, that allows an individual who's going to your site. Yes.
No, I was thinking like, does it allow them to scroll up, like automatically?
No, it gives them different options. It allows them to change the contrast ratio of everything. Allows them to make all the text bigger. Allows them to see just hyperlinks, like just a page with just links. So it allows them to do like 6 different functions. But it's really cool because it's just a plugin and you just activate it. So anybody going, and it puts you can put it anywhere you want. On our site, it's at the bottom. It's just a round icon about this big. And if you click it, a menu pops up and allows them to do all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh wow.
So if you don't download anything, if you don't do anything, I say put that on your site, and that will help individuals come to your site.
Good tool for sure.
We got Wally, WA11Y, the accessibility toolbox. This is a cool little auditing software you put on the back of your site. This does the same thing, puts a little icon on your site, but it's for the back-end developer. You click it, a menu pops up, and you can see where your non-compliance issues are. It'll point out missing alt tags, header issues, contrast ratio, and then it'll put links all around your page saying, you know, it'll highlight, like, it'll tell you, your menu will be on this side, this will tell you where your errors are, and then if you click on an error, it'll highlight on the page where your error is. And then it gives you options for color contrast and stuff. It'll say, you're not in compliance, but try this color. It's really close to it and it's in compliance. We got WebAM. That's a website. You go there and you just type in your URL and it does an automatic audit, a real quick audit, same thing, run through, tell you your header, alt tags, a whole bunch of information. That's not a plugin. That's just you can find it on a plugin, but they're a site. That's the site that you just put in your URL. Google Lighthouse is killing it. Google's killing it. Google Lighthouse, you can do, if you use Chrome, you can just go in and inspect and pull up an audit right there in your little inspection panel, and Google will run an audit right there. They actually grade you. They give you from a 1 to 100, and they're really cool too, because not only they tell you where you're not compliant, they understand that you can only do so much with automated software that you have to manually test your site, no matter what. And they give you a good set of steps to get in there and what to look for manually. So I like that. And then the WP Accessibility Tools and Alt Text Finder, that's our plugin. This, you put this in, this does a few things. This finds all the pictures, takes all the pictures on your site, front end and everything, puts it into one spot, and then you can divvy it up to where it tells you what's missing alt tags or description tags or title tags. And you can go in and manually type those in and it'll push it to the pictures. And it also gives you a contrast checker ratio. So like you were saying earlier, you can type in what your colors are, and it'll tell you whether you're compliant. It'll give you the number, the actual ratio, and then it'll tell you whether you're compliant or not.
Okay.
And it's cool and it lets you too, because if you put in one color on this side, it's your background. It makes the background of your page you're looking at that color, and then you put in your foreground color, and it makes the foreground over here on this side. So you'll be able to see what those colors actually look like, because it overlaps them and stuff.
Okay.
And then we also give you a checklist. We're talking about the WCAG, the actual WCAG guidelines. We break down each and every WCAG guideline, and we try to make it more readable and more understandable on the back end, and then you can actually click that. If you can click that list, everything on that list, you are compliant. That list that we offer, you can click them. If you can fill that out, you are compliant.
I got a question on the userway.org or maybe
Yes.
even your plugin. Do any of these affect site performance?
Not that we've seen. We've not seen anything that's affected site performance. We have the icon on ours, and I'm still running speed tests, and I've not seen any drop whatsoever.
And that plugin can be found in the
Repository.
WordPress one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And we, in our talk next month, we're gonna go into a little more detail on how to use these on your website.
Yeah, we break it down how to use these pieces of software and actually run an audit on you. A simple audit where you'll be able to find major issues.
Okay, a little bit of more free technology that helps. These are screen readers, at least the top two are. NVDA, I always like to plug it. It's a screen reader. It's open source, and it's made by two blind developers. So who better to make a screen reader than a blind developer? So I highly recommend you guys download it, try it. Okay.
Play with it, yes,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that really, you can't get the experience unless you actually do it. And I think it'll really give you a great idea of what low vision users go through. Chromebox is another one that's just a simple add-on to Chrome. And it works, and it's free, so give that a try too. That may be the simplest way to try a screen reader.
And then I threw this in here. This, I think it was you, Lynn, they were asking about. We were talking about accessibility statement creator from the W3C themselves. Follow this link, and it goes right to it, and it asks you questions on your site, what you're doing about it, who you are, and then when it's all done and filled out, it spits out a PDF link, and you can take that and put it into your footer, and you have an accessibility statement now, which is more than most people out there. And that is from the W3C, so it doesn't get any more legit than that.
And that one's free too? Like
Free, absolutely. Everything we show you is free. All right, here's some resources. The actual W3C WCAG 2.1 guidelines. Go ahead and check that out. That'll show you how in depth it really is. It's amazing. This article here is DOJ withdrawing their recommendations. And then the next is the article on the list of lawsuits in the first 2 months of 2018. The first 2 months of 2018, there was like 200 lawsuits. And this article will actually let you link to each one of those, and you can look at them in detail if you want. Big companies. We got an article about the over 2,000 lawsuits filed in, that's supposed to be 2019. Follow this URL here and you'll check that out. We got a comparison table. The comparison table, basically, if anybody's in the know, they know the Section 508 recently had an update. They went from 2.0 to 2.1. This comparison table tells you what's different in 2.1. It compares 2.0 and then tells you 2.1. So that's pretty neat. So if you're already familiar with, WCAG 2.0, this will help you out. This is WordPress accessibility info. What you're talking about, you go to this page and they actually have a lot of information. A lot of coding suggestions, and like I said, you can follow and actually help out. This is the actual law they put in place on December 21st, 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act. You follow this link right here, and it's the actual law for government agencies. And then this is the accessibility statement right here, creator. So, a lot of good resources. I believe that's it. I think that's it. Anybody have any last minute questions? Excuse me? Anything?
Sounds good.
No? Okay. Cool. Well, our model's one website at a time. You can find us at St. Pete Design, Steve at St. Pete Design, Joe at St. Pete Design, and that's our plugin. Check it out. And if you like it, rate it. If it sucks, tell me it sucks. Take it off my Christmas list.
It doesn't.
It's-
I did use it on one site.
Thank you. Oh, yeah?
And got through, but when it came to just the questions, did you do this and that? and I-
The checklist, yeah, that's hard. Yeah, you gotta be a little more knowledgeable. So that's it, guys. We appreciate you coming out. Hopefully we'll see you next month. Thank you.